Hey everybody, Grim here. Endwalker enters early access a little under 70 days from now, and with it, class changes will be coming as well as the addition of Sage and Reaper to our repertoire. A new melee DPS potentially tosses its hat into the ring of highest possible DPS, and I imagine that healer mains must feel a little cautious with the upcoming changes. I don't feel like, aside from healers, the overall landscape of jobs is going to change much, but we will have a lot of things tweaked and updated or improved. Not a lot changed in terms of playstyle. But even then, I still have my own wish list of things that I want from the upcoming changes. So today, I will be listing at least one thing I want changed, updated, or added from existing Final Fantasy XIV classes, so Reaper and Sage are not included. Paladin is overall in a really nice spot, so it's really hard to come up with something. So for the Paladin, I figure it might be nice to improve on something they already have. Paladins right now go through a pretty static rotation: damage overtime combo, Royal Authority combo, Holy Spirit combo, dot combo, Royal repeat. So my proposal is to have the Royal Authority combo restore more mana, and also reduce the cooldown of Requiescat. The intent is to streamline its combos more and make it more satisfying. To me, the most enjoyable part of Paladin was always the Holy Spirit combo into Confiteor. Having more of this feels like it would increase the fun of the job. And maybe adding a guaranteed direct hit or crit aspect to it? Come on, Confiteor feels the best when it's actually critting or direct hitting, right? Warrior has more or less always played the same, without much change for a very, very long time now, and I like it, to this day. Now, its main appeal is both healing yourself and others, so I say we make its team supporting capabilities a little stronger. My wish is very simple. If you apply Shake It Off to everyone in the party, encouraging ranged DPS to also be somewhat in range and not on the other side of the arena all the time, an additional buff occurs. If the shield is popped within a certain time frame, everyone gets a heal. This makes you appealing to take into fights for healers since they have to heal a little bit less and provide ample mitigation. I feel like Warrior can fit into that supportive sort of tank much better in that sense, and also provide ample DPS, so why not? Dark Knight. Alright, so if we want to keep its identity the same way, which is the Agi Warrior, we'll make changes to Living Shadow instead. First, its timer doesn't actually start ticking until it is actually moving, because that sucks, right? Secondly, if the player executes one of the actions like Edge or Flood of Shadow, Living Shadow also performs Carve and Spit at half the potency, at full potency if the player does it themselves. This should make Living Shadow feel a little bit bigger of a deal, because at the moment it just kind of appears and it's like, oh hey, you know, Living Shadow's here, or what do we call it now, Esteem, I believe it was. We all know it's Frey. We all call it Frey, even though it's got a different name. But it's always kind of been there and always causes a laugh when the platform gets destroyed, like in E3S, I believe it was. I believe it was free. So I feel like that one could use a little bit of an update. Gunbreaker. Very simple. Reduce the button bloat first off. It has a 3-button combo, another 3-button combo, a button to go alongside the second 3-button combo, a cartridge expender, and its AoE equivalent, another potency dumper, got AoE counterparts, 2 damage overtimes, a gap closer, a ranged shot, 3 buttons of mitigation, a cartridge button, a very meh self-heal, because it's bad. The self-heal is bad, okay? A damage increase, and also fit those job actions on there, and don't forget your limit break button, right? And if you raid potions, that's just too much on your hotbar, alright? Secondly, if the point of the Gunbreaker is to come across as a bodyguard, and it doesn't mind stealing everything from other classes, then let's take the Paladin's cover, and make it so that for a duration of time, Brutal Shell also applies to this target. So the reduction of buttons would make it far more enjoyable for me. I don't know if anybody else feels this way, but more buttons does not equal more skill. I played Machinist in Heaven's Ward. Trust me, it was a piano class, and Gunbreaker kind of feels the same. It's a lot of buttons. Honestly, White Mage feels like it's in an overall really good spot right now in terms of what it has, but it's overall a little bit boring. But its damage is also relatively high. So I'd say lower the damage on Glare, and whatever it'll have to be in the next expansion, because it's probably not going to be Glare anymore, and create an instant use damage thing that works on charges that's possible to weave in between glares. Its cooldown decreases by a few seconds every time you use glare, thus doing damage on White Mage is encouraged. It feels more active while adding very little in the way of complexity, which is what I think people prefer. The meme of Glare Mage is definitely real. And I noticed it myself as well. The Holy Mage, the Glare Mage, and very easy to heal with. So if you're going to be DPSing anyway, give a little more, let's just say, action to it. Right? Maybe? I don't know, I feel like that'd be a good change. This one is a little bit difficult. You see, with the healers being split into what is essentially a shielding healer and a regeneration healer, I feel like Sage will be receiving a ton of the love in this expansion. That kind of leaves Scholar in a very tough position. Personally, I would like to see the return of split fairies and doing different things. Eos being a healer, Selene being more DPS focused. But with the added catch that it functions similarly to Summoner in that there is no cast time to switch between fairies, and we get the same abilities that demand action, like the Eggy Assault, for example, from the fairy. The reason I propose this is because it creates a similar situation with what will happen in the regeneration side of things. I feel like there will be a pure healer in the category, and one that healers with a little added damage for the party, so there's sort of a buffer and a pure healer. So, like how Astro busts with cards, I feel like Selene being its own thing again, it could be a very similar situation. So like Astro and Scholar sort of provide the same function, where one focuses on supporting as opposed to healing as hard as the other. Does that make sense? So Scholar and Astro fulfill the same thing. Sage and White Mage are the pure healers, while pure shield and pure healer. You get what I mean? So, while I initially wasn't a fan of homogenizing the cards and the things they did, I don't want to bring that back. Instead, what I propose is that each card provides an additional effect. So, one card gives a slight boost to mana recovery, the other one a boost to cooldown recovery, and of course balances for everyone again, and that just provides stronger damage. Maybe the ability to spread cards would also be cool, that if I perform the 3 seals, the next card will also go across the whole party for an increased duration. I feel like we're not bringing, like, with that, we're not sort of forcing every card to 100% go on this person all the time, because maybe in a situation you would want to give the red mage the mana card and provide a little bit of extra damage, especially with some of the red mages that are coming along later on in this video. So I feel like that creates a little bit of flow to Astro, and if you miss it, there's not a huge deal, you know what I mean? I feel like that could be a nice change. That's just me though. Okay, monk, right? Monk. Polyglot, but for monk. I proposed this in the comments section for Drac when he discussed monk for Shadowbringers, but essentially my idea is that Tornado Kick has changed. Basically, every time we use Forbidden Chakra, we build up an additional charge, like an additional gauge, essentially. And this is a tiered system, so with one charge, it's a pretty weak potency Tornado Kick. On the second charge, it's the return of one Elm Punch, for example, for a much stronger potency. And then on the third and final tier, it's one intensive huge blast that locks you into a little bit of an animation for huge potency, and I think that increases the overall feel for the class. It feels like you're building up to something instead of just trying to sustain something. This makes key charges more fun and more useful as well. I really like this idea, right? And it consumes all the charges the moment you use it, by the way. So even if you did like a 2 charge 1 Elm Punch, all are consumed and you have to start over. This also adds a little bit of incentive for monks to start using, for example, 6-Side Star, because if you use 6-Side Star and then use the new sort of like polyglot stack thing, you could do both at the same time. Like you could do 6-Side Star, you have this extended sort of GCD timer, and with that OGCD, you could lock yourself down for that polyglot mechanic. I feel like that'd be a really good way to work that in there. They'll never do this, but I feel because they want Samurai to be the best all the time. But this could be really, really fun in my opinion. What can you even add to Dragoon at this point? Like seriously, it's like giving a rich kid a new pair of socks for Christmas or something. Well, you can add more jumps. I think after activating Stardiver, you enter some sort of feral state, I guess. Sort of like an inner release for Warrior. You'll be able to spam jump for a short period of time, and you don't get a Mirage Dive afterwards. Otherwise, you just enter a loop of jumps, like Stardiver jumps, Stardiver jumps, like, you know what I mean. To be honest, Dragoon's one of my few classes that I have an issue coming up with things for, because it's already a really well-rounded class, in my opinion. I really like the fact that they have a super extended rotation as well. If we can keep that going, that'd also be awesome, right? I feel like it doesn't need much, but this feral state, it could be fun. Also, animation lock, so think about it very, very carefully. Whenever I think of ninja, it's hard to pinpoint what I believe it's missing. It sort of has everything, but it's cluttered into its opener. So what I propose is that we add something to Hyosho Ranryu to give it something to look towards after the opener. So after executing Hyosho, the next 3 executions of Aeolian Edge, if the positional requirements are met, grant a stack. Upon hitting 3, ninja activates a 3-charge buff. The idea is that with each Aeolian Edge, the ninja would retrieve one of the thrown shurikens from Hyosho Ranryu, and its ninjutsu would grant 3 charges of Fuma Shuriken. This incentivizes usage. If you use any mudra, you lose your Fuma Shuriken cast stacks, and you can weave them between GCDs. I feel like this gives the ninja more to do after its main opening rotation. This would be like a little over 20 seconds after the usage of Hyosho. And because you want to line everything up with your party, you can't use Hyosho Ranryu and then hold your bursty opener. But that's my opinion. I feel like this could be a really nice addition. It gives you something to do after your opener, so there's not just like this big boring period. Samurai, it gets a 3rd Midare. Please clap. No? Not good enough? Okay, fine. So, to be honest with you, Samurai, I would give mostly nothing and just improve the flow of the class. Now, before anyone goes on to hate me in the comments, hear me out. What you have seen give me other classes is new actions, new buffs, or new mechanics. You can't do that with Samurai because it already has everything. See, it has an opener, it has something to do after the opener, it has a solid rotation, it already has a stacking mechanic related to its damage, it has a gauge expender. Genuinely, I think the only thing you can do to change Samurai into something different is to have Hagakure give a 3-weapon skill buff. And before you say anything, yes, Midare is a weapon skill and it'd be buffed as well. Tsubame, also known as Midare 2, is listed as an ability, so that's not buffed. But Grim, this means Samurai has another expansion relying on Midares. Yes it does. That's what happens when your class is memed upon because of its one ability. Ask Warrior how it felt for the last few expansion and about Falcleave jokes. Only one other thing I can think of is perhaps a ranged EI Jutsu expander, but it'd pale in comparison to the meme anyway. You would just go for Midare regardless, so there's just not a whole lot you can do to Samurai that would incentivize a lot of usage. Although a ranged EI Jutsu expander could be fun. Maybe. But you're just going to go back to Midare anyway. And guys are going to tell you, don't ever use this because it's not as potent as blah 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 blah. If Bard is intended to be this dot-applying mini-team buffer, then I feel like we can add something additional to its identity. You already want to keep your dots up with Iron Jaws, so we add additional mechanics to Apex Arrow. When you cast at max gauge, it also applies a mark like damage overtime. This needs to be refreshed with Iron Jaws as well. If, by the time Apex Arrow gauge hits its max again and it's fired, it consumes the mark. It does not reapply it. When consumed, the Bard enters a frenzied state, where for the next 20 seconds, all of its damage are crits and direct hits. So if you enter your perfect pitch stance, you're gonna have a fantastic time. It can be either guaranteed crits or direct hits, or both. This really rewards Iron Jaw's upkeep, allows a pretty massive burst phase for the Bard that it can delay if it needs to align itself with a party. And yes, during its frenzied state, it does not gain any points to its apex gauge, because that would be far too strong, and then you enter a similar situation with, like with Dragoon, where you constantly have jumps, Mirage Dive, Star Diver. Like, you see how that would just not work? Or not Star Diver, you know what I mean. Machinist. Okay, a little rant. When Black Mage and Samurai were designated to be selfish DPS, it made sense for them to do the same with the numbers they bring for Machinist. Machinist was designated to be the exact same thing, but ultimately does not measure up to the new king of ranged physical DPS, in my opinion. That is Dancer. Personally, I believe Bard sits in a comfy second place, leaving Machinist in a third place. Now, Parse worshippers have already paused the video and written up a 5-page document on how wrong I am, but I have a little personal history with my disappointment in Machinist, considering I was a dedicated Machinist player from the beginning to end of Heaven's Ward, and the start of Stormblood had me excited, but disappointed me in the end as well. Shadowbringers was a nice thematic change, but while its identity being moved to a gadgeteer as opposed to a sharpshooting marksman, it's left the Machinist a little static. Every other ranged physical has some sort of leeway of damage with, chance involvement, and I'm talking about procs on Dancer and Bard. Machinist doesn't have that. Not anymore. In fact, if you wanted to work it out, you'd be able to get a 99.9% accuracy of which part, which gauge you're at the exact second in a fight with your next actions already planned out ahead of you. I wanted to introduce the old Heavensward and Stormblood chance into this. Yes, I'm adding shot progression and ammo back. Kind of. I want there to be a 1-2-3 chance rotation again, but instead of ammo, we use the heat gauge. Instead of using heat shot, ricochet, heat shot, gauss round, heat shot, ricochet, like a 1-2-3-2, 1-2-3, we can opt to do our 1-2-3 clean shot combo in there with guaranteed progression and crit and direct hits on each shot. Because there's always going to be the heat combo of 1-2-3-2, 1-2-3, but the one after that could use some spice. So essentially you would have your typical 1-2-3-2, 1-2-3-2 combo with Wildfire, but after you get that second proc for the heat gauge, you could instead use your clean shot rotation, which is your normal shot rotation, I suppose, and those are going to be guaranteed crits. That's the way that I want to do it. Perhaps it might create some better uptime strats too, like you can't get a full Wildfire off, so chance it with your clean shot combo instead. I don't know, I feel like that could introduce some really nice things, a little bit of RNG again. That's how I personally feel. Dancer is a ton of fun in my eyes. It's easy, and it has a bit of chance to it, and there's a very clear and strong damage kit for both AoE and single targets. Admittedly, you don't need to add something in high potency to this kit, because it already has it, or something that stacks since it already has all of those things. So instead, I look to something that doesn't actually do damage. I look to Endwalker. Simply put, all fights are designed so that you can pop sprint and you can get to your location. Ninja have their ninja dust jump. Red Mage has its disengage. Samurai has Yaten. And Dragoon has that button which is notorious for anything but its safety. But in Dancer's overall rotation, it sees very little use. In fact, I kinda use it during fights when I'm bored. So what I propose is that Endwalker grants one of these two buffs, if not both. It adds 10 points to your saber gauge, and B, it procs both Rising Windmill and Reverse Cascade. I would have said Blood Shower and Fountain Fall, but those strike me as a little bit too strong. Also, a big quality of life changer that I desperately ask for, make it so that when you use your dance, like your standard step and your technical step, your AoE buttons also transform into step buttons. I play on controller, I have two separate hotbars for both of them, and I constantly have to switch around just to do the dance. I want to be lazy. It would feel so much better. Please. Like, why does it not also replace it? Come on. Alright, replace the Black Mage icon with a picture of Sphere's face. Done. On a more serious note, I think Black Mage could do with a little simplifying in its numerical actions. See, some actions barely go used aside from leveling. I actually saw someone on Reddit say that Black Mage is intuitive in its leveling since you learn more of the rotation as you level up, but that really couldn't be further from the truth. Once you unlock Flare, there is no point in using Fire 2. Blizzard 2 also sees absolutely no use after you get Freeze. So aside from that, what I would add, well, I was thinking of adding an effect to Xenoglossy to encourage consistent use. That is that when using Xenoglossy or Flare, you apply a few, very minor but long, timed damage buff to yourself. I know, a damage buff, scary. And with each cast of Flare or Xenoglossy, it gets refreshed. The upside is that there's a huge amount of downtime, and you time your Umbra Soul correctly, you'll have Xenoglossy ready for the next time you get to attack, meaning it's not entirely ruined all of the things you've built up. And also, I just realized I should have said foul. Whatever. Not like Black Mages mind higher numbers either, so I think they'll be very happy with this change. Why did I say foul instead? Oh well. Alright, we're keeping it simple again. I'd bring back 3 Aether Flow slots. How you acquire them doesn't change, and for the major part, we get new Eggies. We got promised it somewhere in Heavensward, and we never got any. Grey Carbuncle for starters, then Lakshmi to go along with the Garuda, Susanoo for Ifrit, and nobody really uses Titan anyway, so we're good there, but if you want to add something, I'm sure you can come up with something. I don't know, maybe add to Gyojin or something. That's it. No other changes. I really like the class, and I like the way that it plays now. I like the amount of stances, and it shouldn't be increased. I feel like that would be absolutely ridiculous. It doesn't need any more dots, even though I much prefer the old times where you used to just apply 3 dots at the time, but that's pretty much it. Okay, so this idea, it can be a little bit hard to implement, but everyone treats the red mage as a sort of support for the healers with a bit of DPS, right? So I'd say we reward the red mage. If a red mage restores HP or it raises an ally, they extend the time on a brand new gauge. If they heal any HP, the timer increases. So long as the gauge is actually ticking, the red mage gets a fairly decent percentage damage increase. Healing yourself is only half as effective, and to prevent cheesing early before pools, this only applies when in combat, so no weird limit break gauge stuff like there was for a tiny bit. I also should say, the actual timing doesn't start happening until you actually heal something, so if you're trying to overheal constantly, that doesn't actually work. You need to functionally heal. And that's my wish list for Final Fantasy XIV actions. What is your highest desired wish for a class? Is it for monks to get unclunked? Is it for summoners to get eggies? Let me know. Please remember to like and subscribe. I appreciate all of it. And in any case, I'm Grim Fables, and I hope to see you again very, very soon.